updates, and several new changes there. We got a ton to talk about. What's up, world? It's Utopia back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things the finals. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Now, I did have an exclusive interview with the developers and even the CCO, Rob, who went on to share everything with the new season, what their future plans are, which we'll jump into now. Again, then we'll go over those balance changes and all the new things and features you'll see in-game. So first up, during my developer meeting, they talked about that this was year 2, the road ahead, where we are getting Major 2025 in Season 8. So that has now been confirmed. You will see Major 2025 in Season 8. They also did give us clues into Season 7 and Season 8. Season 7 is being labeled Countdown, and that one will be releasing June 12th. Where Season 8 will be called the Game Time, they did have this one blurred out with the day, but I do believe it said September. That will be around when the majors will come out. So plenty of time until then for them to get the game in shape for the majors, which is good because next up here is what they're working on. So as they do mention here that Season 6 is the start of improved core experience. They're going to be doing a complete overhaul to weapons and gadgets. And this is not just a one-time update. This will start with Season 6, but again, will be a complete overhaul to everything. We had some creators in chat even calling this Finals 2.0. So yeah, we're going to be seeing some massive overhauls with this season, going into the later seasons as well, but it does start with Season 6. Really happy for this change. There's going to be more time-limited events in Season 6. Seasonal progression to all quick play modes with rewards, including TDM. Which, yeah, if you see here, there is essentially the same reward structure as World Tour, where you will get badges for playing quick play, and it all applies to the same ones. Even if you're playing TDM or if you're playing another mode like Power Shift, it's all going to go into your quick play rewards. Very, very cool there. TDM is also going to be in a permanent mode structure. So yes, you did hear that right. TDM is back and it will be a permanent mode. Power Shift will be available for all maps, including the new Bernal map and the new version of Las Vegas. I am so happy about that and super hyped. They also did mention that a lot of maps for TDM will also be there. I wish I caught exactly which ones they did say, but there is a ton of new maps for TDM, not just a few that we played during that limited time event. I believe they said Bernal, Fortune Stadium, pretty much every single map is going to be in TDM. So really cool to see that we're getting all new maps. And yeah, it did include the new Las Vegas map. We did play TDM on that map pretty much every time. If you haven't seen from some of my footage in the practice range, target dummies have a new feature. They're going to run around, you'll be able to practice with them. They also play much more like players, which is really cool to see there that they kind of function like an actual player. I think they mentioned that there might be settings here, but there's going to be a ton of new features with practice range. I'm sure they're going to add on to this in the future, but it was really cool there to see them play like players, run around like a player, and you just get to experience them in a whole new way. They also act like a player with physics. It's really cool to see. Super happy for that change there. They also do have these stagnant target dummies on the left-hand side. For ranked, there's going to be improved features. They have streamer mode, hide username, and even a matchmaking delay. This is all in your settings that you can change, or you can conceal your username or others' usernames. And again, even add that matchmaking delay. Private matches are getting basically an entire overhaul. You can now move players around in the private match lobby. There's an all-new spectator mode with improved camera controls and third-person camera arm. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to show this, but it did seem pretty cool overall. And they also do have further improvements planned for that. I will cover this in my all cosmetics video and the update there, but there was a brand new store overhaul with new body type variants. That only did apply to Heavy though, where Heavy gets a muscular body type for both the female and the male body type. So really cool that you could switch in between there. There is new outfit slots and names. And there is an all-new dressing room where you can freely try on all cosmetics and even check out from that page and wishlist it. That was a really, really cool feature, and you can also name outfits. You do get a total of 24 slots. There's also a new filter section for the store overhaul where you can filter out cosmetics by different seasons, their price, if they're on the battle pass, the store page, even event rewards, and you can even filter from low to high. Just a really cool section there, a ton of quality of life changes to the store. There's also a new store page where you can scroll freely, and they are categorized now. Again, if you want to see all the cosmetics, I do go through them in my cosmetic video. I also have a battle pass video on my channel. Now, it wouldn't be a new season without new scopes. Yes, we did get some brand new scopes for nearly all weapons, and even the F-car now has a red dot sight. It seemed like everybody liked this glass reflex scope. I really enjoyed this one. This one's a nice one used in a lot of games. Found that one really good to use on the F-car and even the XP54. Now, they do mention the Vegas map here, where they say it was fully reimagined, and they are reducing visual clutter with it. So a lot of the clutter around, a lot of the slot machines, things that are getting knocked over, that's not going to be the case anymore. You could see that from here. A lot of the hallways and even the overall structure is very clear. There's not a lot going on there anymore, and you can kind of freely move about. Now, they do mention here that the original Las Vegas map will return. So it is currently not a variant to be played on as of right now, but it will come back maybe even in unlimited time mode. Again, there is no new map. Technically, there's just the new Las Vegas, but still really cool nonetheless that they did revamp that. Moving on here from the exclusive dev talk, we did have the balance changes. I'm going to go over all of those, show you the new weapons and how they do function. So first up, on light, as you see, we do have a brand new weapon, and I do have a nice decent skin on here. I believe this one is from the battle pass, which I will go over in another video. We can check out the damage and the red dot sight with it. A lot of people are using this glass reflex sight. Seems really, really good so far. A lot of people in the creator test were checking this one out. Go check out some of the damage here. It does not have much recoil. It has a little bit more recoil, obviously, with the iron sights, but it is only visual recoil. And the reload, so if you see here, the reload with this gun, and the mechanic of it at least, is that when you do have a couple bullets left, you won't actually get the fast reload. That's a super unfortunate one. You have to use everything in the mag in order to get the fast reload. As you see there, in order to get that fast reload, I have to use every single bullet. Now, of course, when you're already on your second mag, as you can see the bottom right, we are going to do the long reload. So even if I shoot a couple bullets and I want to do a reload, I have to do the long reload again. So unfortunately, that weapon does not have that mechanic unless you use all of the ammo in the weapon, which I do think is a bit of a downside there. I hope maybe that's changed in the future. I'm not sure why that mechanic would be there. I can understand maybe because it might make reloading too fast in some scenarios, but if you are in a tactical situation and you're having to expel all of your ammo just to get the fast reload, I do think that could be part of an issue or part of a problem. Here's the TTK with only headshots, and then we'll check out the TTK with only body shots. So not too bad there overall. Pretty decent TTK, but I will say that the XP54 with the new changes actually felt quite better. So we'll go to the XP54 and check out that change there. So next up here, we can check out the XP54. Now the changes are the increased damage 16 to 17. We got the increased fall-off range 20 to 22 meters, while the increased fall-off range was 30 to 32, and the decreased damage fall-off multiplier was 0.62 to 0.52, meaning the weapon does slightly less damage at range, but this weapon does actually feel really good. Overall, you'll see the TTK, the new TTK with it. It is very fast. In fact, it does feel actually slightly better than the new weapon here, and even with the body TTK as well. It does feel really good as of right now, and I did find it to be better than the new weapon. We did some testings. A lot of the creators that I played with agreed that it was the exact same they felt with it overall. And as you can see, there's the new skin here, showcased and featured, kind of like the shell shading skin on it, so pretty decent overall. Next up here, we have the LH1, and the LH1 actually did receive some nerfs here, where they decreased the damage from 46 to 40. So just a damage nerf across the board. You'll see that here represented in the damage. Even with headshots, it does significantly less damage, or at least a decent amount of less damage. You will really feel that in the gameplay there, as it does knock it down quite a bit damage-wise. Next up here, we do have the M11, which has increased the damage fall-off range, giving the weapon slightly longer effective range, but they've decreased the damage fall-off multiplier, meaning that the weapon does slightly less damage at range. So still decent overall, but it will do slightly less damage at range here, so you'll see that represented, especially with its recoil. But yeah, overall, it does do slightly less damage. Next up here, we do have the F-Car, and we have those brand new red dot sights. They look really, really good, and I've heard they perform very well. I didn't really try this weapon a ton during the creator event, but it does do some decent overall damage still. And they have actually done some changes here, which they've decreased the recoil intensity for bullets 5 to 7 in the firing sequence, making the weapon slightly more stable. So overall, the weapon will be slightly more stable and won't have as much kick with it. We can see that here. It does have a little bit less kick, even with the visual recoil. Next up here, we have the Pike 556, which has decreased the damage fall-off minimum range from 50 to 45, which will give the weapon slightly shorter effective range. They've decreased the damage fall-off range from 55 to 50, giving the weapon slightly shorter effective range, and they've also decreased the damage fall-off multiplier from 0.85 to 0.76, making the weapon do slightly less damage at range. This weapon did get a significant nerf, probably more than likely to maybe combat or push you to the new weapon, which is very, very strong. We'll check that one out right now. Moving over, we have this CB01 repeater. Now, this one was very strong for creators that could actually hit their headshots. I had a difficult time with it as I'm not the best shot, but most people were loving this weapon overall and having a really good time with it, and so they were pretty much picking people off with this weapon. It is very, very strong, very, very strong. As you do see here, when you reload it, it will reload 5 in the mag when you do go down to 0, and then it will reload the last 3 with a single bullet there. So a decently nice, neat mechanic for that overall. The CL40, it actually did get some changes here for it overall. In fact, they did do an increased size of the inner blast radius from 30 to 60 centimeters, and the weapon should be now slightly easier to do maximum damage. So before, when you were hitting somewhat close, its AoE should do more damage now. So obviously we're not doing full damage here, but when we hit really close, we are going to do full damage, right? And so it should give you a little bit more space to provide full damage, about 30 to 60 meters, or 60 centimeters rather, away. As you see, we can do some decent damage there when we are pretty close to the feet. So decent overall, nice weapon change. Of course, it wouldn't be a video without the new minigun. Now, I have a ton of footage for this, but I will also show it in the target range. This gun is really cool. Now, you can see we can actually charge it up with a right click. It's going to kind of put a blur, or I guess a shadowing around the outside edges here, almost like a fisheye, and you do move really slow with this thing. It is a really fun weapon to use. It does shred, but it's going to be hard to play with, I think, in some scenarios, especially with the specialization. A lot of the creators were also agreeing on that essentially the specialization is going to be something that it really doesn't work with any of them, seeing as that you don't really have time to place anything or do anything with it, or use the goo gun, or switch to a mesh shield, or even charge and slam. Although, more than likely charge and slam would probably be your best bet there. I did hear some people using that shield, but this one overall, kind of just really fun to use. It is very, very loud. It is very strong at even close range, really, and decent range. If you get kind of far back, though, it doesn't really do a lot of damage. You can knock down those shields very good. I've also heard that if you crouch, you'll be a little bit more accurate here, so crouching will help. It does have a nice, decent mag size at 220. Next up here, we have the M60. And the M60 did get some changes here, and they are fairly decent. They've increased the damage from 19 to 20. They've increased the damage fall-off range from 32 to 35 meters, giving it more effective range. And they've also increased the damage fall-off multiplier, meaning the weapon now does slightly more damage at range. Well, they're trying to probably put it in line with some of the other weapons, especially the minigun rather. And as you can see, it will still do decent damage at those ranges as long as you can maintain that recoil. We do have the SA-1216. They've decreased the pellet count from 13 to 12. They've also decreased the total damage per shot from 78 to 72, and they've increased the damage fall-off range, which gives the weapon slightly more range, or effective range, from 10 to 12.5 meters, and they've also increased the damage fall-off range from 15 to 20 meters, giving the weapon slightly longer effective range as well. So yeah, you are going to get a little bit more effective range out of it, but you are going to do less damage. They have significantly nerfed this thing, and so you're going to do a lot less damage. Now, it can still be fairly strong, but this does seem like quite the significant nerf to it, where more than likely this is going to put it in line with other shotguns, and is going to decrease it overall. This weapon was getting quite strong out there. Now, the dagger did get some changes here to both its main and secondary attack. They've increased the damage of the regular attacks from 50 to 60, and they've increased the damage of non-backstab secondary attacks from 50 to 75. Damage with the backstab secondary attacks will remain at 320. So overall, there will be a decent attack here now. You can see we got the new target dummies here, and then the new secondary attack should do a little bit more damage, but the main primary attack, or the main attack of the secondary in the front, will do that 320. So pretty decent overall that it's going to keep it and do some more damage. So dagger players can rejoice, they actually will be getting a little bit of a buff here. Moving on from the weapons, we do have the gadgets. First up here, we have the APS turret, which had decreased damage taken per projectile destroyed from 40% of total health to 31%, meaning a full APS can now block 4 projectiles instead of 3. So really cool there, you did get a little bit of a buff with that, as it did get a bit too hard nerfed. Data Reshaper had its decreased ammo count from 3 to 2. Glitch Grenade saw a decreased fuse time from 1.8 seconds to 1.5. Gravity Vortex saw a bunch of buffs here and a bit of a nerf, but they've increased the max duration of the Vortex from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. They've also increased the minimum duration of the Vortex from 5 seconds to 7 seconds. They've decreased the maximum throw distance from 29 to 15 meters, throw velocity from 16 to 15, but they have increased the projectile modifier from 1 to 1.7, giving the projectile a much steeper arc. Tracking dart also saw increased duration on targets from 10 to 13 seconds, so a 3-second buff there. We have 2 specialization changes, where yes, cloaking device did get a bunch of nerfs here. They've increased the cloak max blend from 1.5 to 1.7, making cloaked players slightly more visible. They've also increased the delay before transitioning into cloak from 0 to 0.5, making players disappear slightly slower than they did before, and they've increased the first-person cloak multiplier from 0.9 to 1, meaning that the cloak effect in first-person view more accurately represents the cloaking effect seen in third person. That way you don't think that you're becoming invisible a little bit too soon. Winchclaw saw a change here with its max range increased from 10 meters to 12 meters. They added scaling of the stun duration based on the distance of the target player, meaning that long hooks stun player for slightly longer than short range hits. Actually a pretty fun change there. For those skill long range hits, you are rewarded for that. They've also increased the maximum stun duration on targets hit at max range from 0.5 to 0.65. They've also added the minimum stun duration on targets hit at minimum range 3 meters or less of 0.3 seconds. And the Winchclaw stun effect now impacts weapons and gadgets only, not specializations. Some pretty decent changes there. Again, this is for the 6.0 update. All of the changes for everything in the store overhauls, what their future plans are, what the weapon changes were. Hope I documented that as best as possible. Overall, that's about covered for today's video. If you like and subscribe, and into the next one. Deuce.